On Thursday, President Trump, neck deep in the blowback from his firing of FBI Director Comey, decided that he would correct course by focusing on the most pressing priority a 4-month-old presidency could face: voter fraud. And in true Trump fashion, he codified his concern in an executive order, one that calls for a new bipartisan task force to study the alleged epidemic of voter fraud that he says has cost him the popular vote in November. If you notice there's more than a bit of sarcasm in my voice, it's because I cannot call this anything other than what it is: the diversionary tactic of a troubled presidency that has been battling inconvenient facts like popular vote totals from day one. And more dangerously, a precedent for conservative legislators that have been using the argument that the ballot is in jeopardy as an excuse to make voting even harder for mostly poor and minority voters. It all leads down the same dangerous path to voter suppression. Joining me now is Judith Browne Dianis, Executive Director of the Advancement Project. Judith, maybe I'm missing something, but where is all this widespread voter fraud? There's been any number of studies, even by the Justice Department, and we don't see it.
Well, Rev, you're not missing anything. There is no voter fraud. I mean, we should know that any time that Republicans talk about voter integrity, what they're really talking about is the setup for voter suppression. Study after study has shown that there is no voter fraud, but they don't want to get rid of that dog because what they need is, like I said, a cover-up for making it harder to vote. And so this commission is nothing but a farce. This commission is not going to be looking at the integrity of the system. This commission is going to be looking at how to make it harder to register, harder to vote, easier to get people kicked off of the rolls. And so what we really need is not a commission, but what we need is an investment in our election system to actually make it easier for people to vote. Yep. And we know at the heart of this is that people of color, older people, and younger people, college voters who Republicans don't want to vote, are going to be the ones hardest hit by any findings of this commission.
Well, let's listen to Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, who will be the vice chair of this task force that President Trump just announced.
We do have a great deal of evidence about people voting in more than one state in the same election. We do have a lot of evidence about non-citizens.
Some say people who bring that up just don't want minorities voting.
You know, I think that's a ridiculous argument. Look, voter fraud can affect any jurisdiction, any part of the country. And no, we don't go in with an assumption about what we're going to find. This commission is going in with an open mind. Let's just find what the facts are.
Now, he's going to co-chair this commission. He's been successfully sued 4 times for voter suppression. 4 times. And this is who you put on your commission?
That's right. Again, the setup, right? I mean, Chris Kobach is the one of the authors of the playbook of voter suppression. He's not only that, but he is also an architect of anti-immigrant laws like the Arizona Show Me Your Papers. He's also an architect of the Muslim ban. So here we have a person that we are supposed to trust on looking at the integrity of our voting system, who has time and time again been hit by filing laws and being the architect of laws that have been found unconstitutional with regard to voting. And so, again, the setup is in. What they are trying to do is to continue this story that Trump is like a dog with a bone around this voter fraud issue. And again, Rev, like you said, it's because he can't make sense of the fact that he lost the popular vote.
And then they will come back, my fear, is they will come back to commission and really just use that as a rationale to say, and therefore, we don't need to have early voting. We don't need Sunday souls to the polls. We need strict voter ID laws to really reinforce a lot of the voting suppression methods that you and I and others questioned and fought against over the last several years. This commission, in the name of our recommendations coming from studying voter fraud, recommend these things, which would then, in fact, suppress a lot of voters of blacks, of people of color, of seniors and young people for the midterm elections.
That's right, Rev. Look, everybody wants integrity in the system, but what we don't want is a witch hunt for the phantom UFO called voter fraud that only is about making it harder to vote. And I think you're right, Rev. We have to look out for whether or not Congress will turn to make a law that will make it harder to vote through voter ID or proof of citizenship or rollbacks in early voting, things that we know, tools that are used by communities to make it easier to vote. People, want convenience in voting. I mean, our system is archaic, and what we need are investments to make it easier for people to vote, not harder for them to vote.
Thank you, Judith Browne Dianis.